Hello, my name is Soumik Datta, and I play this instrument here called the Sarod. The Sarod is an Indian classical instrument, fretless Indian classical instrument, and it's made out of one piece of mahogany wood, and you can learn techniques on it to be able to play as a soloist, techniques that aren't so uncommon from Western instruments as you learn to play the piano or the violin. But the music that is played on the Sarod is not complete without this instrument here, which is called the Tabla. And I've invited my friend Gurdain, who's a wonderful Tabla player, and we've known each other for many years, to join me so that we can demonstrate what the music sounds like when played together. Rhythm and melody. And it's also important to note that the tabla head is made out of skin, and the sarod, it's quite special as well. Unlike other melodic instruments from India, this is also skin. And through the resonance and frequencies of the skin vibrating, we reach the music that we're trying to play. So the instrument, the sarod, is made out of one piece of mahogany wood. I'll turn it around so you can see the back. And this is the sort of the chamber, the sound chamber. The top over here is covered with sheepskin, which reverberates. And this fretless board is made out of stainless steel, and you glide along it with the tips of your finger nail, actually. And I mean, if you played this with your fingertip, like a guitar, it would sound like this. It's a muted sound. So you have to turn the edge of the finger and place your nail on it, and then glide along it. We play with 3 fingernails, actually. Currently I'm using a combination of things. That one's my nail. These 2 are plastic tips because I managed to break them on the corner of a door the other day, which was painful. So maintenance is a real issue. We use super glue often. I have some super glue here. I have lots of super glue here. This is my favorite brand. I'm not endorsing them, but you sort of apply it at the edge of the nail to fortify it. It hardens the skin, which then I peel off and push into the crevice, so not for the faint-hearted. And that fortifies the nail, allowing me to play this glide and other glides and other things. The nails and the fingers are very much part of the instrument itself. It's sort of, they're connected. Without the nails, I can't play, even though I might have the best instrument in the world. On the right hand, we use plectrums. This is made out of coconut shell. We call them java. And they're handcrafted. They're slightly different sizes to be able to play. This is actually my warm-up java. This is great to warm up on. Just gives a good full tone to get into things. And then this one I use for more intricate cross pluckings because it's smaller. The pegs are also made of wood, and you usually put just a little bit of chalk on the peg to make them sort of stick better, and the instrument doesn't go out of tune as much. And that is something that, my teacher, my guru, learned through trial and error. And a lot of it is through trial and error. You try different things. And so people go through many iterations of instruments, trying different things. You need to have a really good relationship with your instrument maker to discuss concepts and try new things. And these are the sympathetic strings. A lot of Indian instruments, the sitar also has it, the sarangi has it, and they are tuned to the rag that you want to play. And that's all you need to do with them. The job is just to tune them really well, and then they resonate on their own. So when I play his D, E flat, F, and the corresponding sympathetics are constantly resonating with the main note up here, creating a sort of ambience which is probably being picked up by those top mics over here, and you'll hear it in the recordings. But without them, the sound of the instrument would be dead. It wouldn't carry. It wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't have that air. What is a rag? Is the ultimate question. My guru described it as a color of music. He would start playing something quite sweet and melodious, maybe something like this. And then suddenly switch to something dark and ominous, like. And these are just colors and sound, he would say. What is green but your memory of it? What is blue but your association with it? So your ear learns to recognize rag in the same way that your eye remembers colors. But for that you have to notice, you have to remember, in order to be able to evoke it correctly, with the right mood, and then offer it to the audience. The music developed in sort of what we call Baitak, which is a sort of salon-like environment. And typically you would have a setting like this, maybe nice carpets and kurtas like he's wearing. I'm wearing an Indian shirt. And we would sit, just two people. The tanpura would be on. This is a digital tanpura, but it sets the drone of the instruments, so you can tune to it, and it creates an ambience. And that's all that's really needed to create the music. With the growth of the popularity of the music, with commercialization, globalization, the audiences got bigger, the organizers wanted bigger halls, and then we got into this world of amplifying our instruments. So even what you're hearing today is, things are close mic'd. You'll hear a lot of the detail in the instruments, as you would if you went to a classical concert in India. In Indian music, and this is why the tabla is here as well, rhythm is circular. We start at beat 1, follow the clock around, and let's say we're in a cycle of 16 beats. We follow 16 beats and come back to the 1, and then go around again and again and again. And there is a sort of hypnotic, spiraling, meditative experience to all of that. Maybe we can play a piece to demonstrate. I'll play you something traditional. This is a rag called Rag Kamaj. It's usually played during the evenings, and it has a sort of romantic flavor. I could give you a few examples of some of the sounds you might hear if you go to a Sarod concert. Before the soloist would start playing with the tabla is a section called alap, which means introduction, and the player is essentially introducing the frequencies and the phrases of the rag to the audience. And what's special about the Sarod is because this is a fretless steel board, we can create glides. And all the glides are there essentially to imitate or evoke the human voice. So you might hear phrases like which is quite a basic glide from one note to another, back to another. These are long glides. And then you might get some faster glides made with combinations of forward movement and backwards movement, depending on the rag. But this rag might give us some interesting phrases. And then some glides on the upper octave, especially this string, which is quite sonorous on this instrument. If I play the same phrase on the lower octave, it doesn't quite do the same thing. There's a real sense of like reaching and tension in that string, which evokes the voice because it's almost like the human voice is singing higher, trying to attain something that is higher. And all the phrases are actually trying to get back to the root note, which we're tuned in C, and this rag has a sort of broken minor scale, but the C is what we're trying to always return to. So the tension of and the resolve of. Tora is a particularly, it's something that you hear mostly on Sarod. It's difficult to hear it on other instruments. It comes from the right hand cross pluckings. There are two strokes, the downstroke, which is called Da, and the upstroke, which is called Ra. If you combine these, you get all kinds of different kinds of phrases, diri diri, diri diri dar dar da, da diri 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 dar dar da. These are all Tora phrases, nuggets, like little words or phrases basically. Da da diri diri dar dar da. Dridridar dar, drida dridara da. I'm playing the same phrase on this hand, I'm just changing the notes. This cross-plucking, and then when you put that on a grid, you'll see how some of them are basically off the beat, and it's playing between being on the beat and being off the beat that makes it interesting, all the variations. So maybe we should bring the tabla back over here. Let's say these are all phrases on the beat. And now if we start playing with the timing of these phrases, so these are some examples of tora. And tora literally just means like pieces that are joined together to create rhythms. The instrument is meant to be played in this position. We sort of sit in this yogic position with the right leg crossed over, and it lifts the instrument in a certain way, and it keeps the spine sort of set in a certain way. But I have noticed that I need to stretch more and I need to warm up and do mobility exercises. Otherwise, this twist that's happening becomes quite tricky, and halfway through the concert you start feeling it. Yeah, so constant sort of awareness of how your back is feeling, how your spine is feeling, your knees, they're also a part of it. There isn't really any exercise to do apart from, just be aware of it and constantly try and ease that tension that might be building. Like right now I feel something over here a little bit because I didn't do my mobility properly this morning. And practice hasn't really changed so much. There's sort of slow practice that we do, there's scales, and certain things that you do to sort of warm up. Like, you might take a passage like and that gets faster. You might extend it up, higher up as well. This is something that I use a lot because in 5 minutes I'm warm, and then you get into sort of the cross rhythm practice, which is a note per stroke at faster tempos, where the second stroke is going up and the first stroke is going down. So. is quite easy with notes like this, but there are rags that have trickier patterns and trickier phrases, which you need to just practice on a loop for a long time for your hand to be able to come around the shape of the rag on the instrument that way. Not every rag moves in straight lines, so the shape of the rag, in some ways, maintaining the shape of the rag and maintaining the shape of your body, are the two things that you sort of have to pay close attention to.